Once upon a time there lived a girl named Chioma. Chioma was born into a humble family in a small village. Her father had passed away when she was very young, leaving her mother, Mama Chioma, to care for her alone. Life had never been easy for them. Mama Chioma was known around the village as a hard-working but poor woman. She farmed their small plot of land, did menial jobs for wealthier villagers, and struggled to provide for her daughter. As Chioma grew older, she became acutely aware of their poverty. The thatched roof of their small house leaked during the rainy season. Their meals were often sparse, and Chioma wore the same faded clothes year after year. She began to despise the life she had. Every time she saw rich men and their families drive through the village in their shiny cars, she felt a burning desire to escape her circumstances. One evening, after returning from fetching water from the stream, Chioma sat down with her mother, who had just come back from the market. Her mother's hands were cracked and worn from the hard work she did daily. "Chioma," her mother began gently, "I want to talk to you about your future. I know things have been difficult, but you must understand that wealth is not everything. When it comes to choosing a husband, look for a man who is kind, respectful, and who will love you. A rich man may not bring you happiness." Chioma scoffed and shook her head. "Mama, I will never marry a poor man. I've seen how hard your life has been, how much you've suffered. I can't live like this forever. I need to escape this poverty. I want to marry a rich man who will take care of me." Mama Chioma sighed, her heart heavy with worry. "Money is not everything, my daughter. Wealth can disappear in a moment, but a good heart lasts forever." But Chioma wouldn't listen. She was determined to marry rich, no matter what her mother said. Her desire to escape the village and live a luxurious life consumed her thoughts. She began rejecting every suitor who came to ask for her hand, no matter how good-natured they were. In her eyes, they were all too poor, too ordinary. Then one day Chioma met Chidi. He was everything she had ever dreamed of: tall, handsome, and wealthy. He was a businessman from the city, always dressed in the finest clothes and driving the latest cars. When Chidi started showing interest in Chioma, she felt as though her prayers had been answered. Chidi showered her with gifts: gold jewelry, expensive clothes, and money to give to her mother. Chioma was thrilled. She believed she had finally found her way out of poverty. Mama Chioma, however, was wary of Chidi. There was something about him that made her uneasy. She tried to warn her daughter, but Chioma was too blinded by wealth to see anything wrong. "Mama, you're just jealous. You've never had a rich man pursue you before, so you don't understand," Chioma said one evening, rolling her eyes. "Chidi is the answer to my prayers. I'm going to marry him, and we'll leave this village for good." Despite her mother's warnings, Chioma married Chidi a few months later in a grand ceremony. She moved with him to the city, leaving her poor mother behind. At first, life with Chidi was everything Chioma had dreamed of. She lived in a big house, attended fancy parties, and had all the luxury she had ever wanted. But things soon took a dark turn. One night, after a lavish dinner party, Chioma began feeling ill. She rushed to the bathroom, and to her horror, she started vomiting. Money, crisp notes spilled out of her mouth, falling into the sink. She screamed, but no one came to help her. Day after day, this strange affliction continued. She vomited money every time she ate, and she grew weaker by the day. Chioma confronted Chidi, but he remained calm, almost indifferent. His charming smile had faded, replaced by a cold, calculating look. "Chidi, what's happening to me?" she cried, her voice trembling. "Why am I vomiting money?" Chidi's expression was devoid of emotion as he stared at her. "You've become useful to me, Chioma. You are my source of wealth now." It dawned on her, the terrible truth she had been too blinded by greed to see. Chidi had used her for a money ritual. The lavish life she had been enjoying came at the cost of her own health, her own life. She was nothing more than a vessel for his riches. Chioma's heart shattered. She had traded her soul for luxury, and now she was paying the price. She begged Chidi to release her from the curse, but he refused. The once loving and doting man had become a monster. His true intentions were now clear. He had never loved her. She was merely a tool for his wealth. Desperate and weak, Chioma escaped back to her village. When she arrived at her mother's doorstep, she was barely recognizable. Frail, pale, and trembling, Mama Chioma, though heartbroken to see her daughter in such a state, took her in without hesitation. She nursed Chioma as best she could, but the vomiting continued. Money spilled from her mouth every day, and her body wasted away. As she lay on her sickbed, Chioma wept, realizing too late that her mother had been right all along. "Mama, I should have listened to you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I was so blinded by greed that I couldn't see the truth." Mama Chioma held her daughter's hand tightly, tears streaming down her face. "My daughter, I wish I could take away your pain. I tried to warn you, but the world is cruel, and sometimes we have to learn hard lessons." Chioma's health continued to deteriorate, and there was nothing the village healers could do. The curse had taken hold of her, and no amount of money could save her now. She had chased after wealth, only to find herself trapped in a nightmare she could not escape. In her final moments, Chioma looked into her mother's eyes, filled with regret. "Mama, forgive me. I was wrong. Wealth is not worth losing your soul." Mama Chioma kissed her daughter's forehead, her heart breaking. "You are forgiven, my child. Rest now. You are at peace." And with that, Chioma closed her eyes for the last time, leaving behind a trail of tears and money that could never replace the life she had lost.